Hi, this is Wayne Blasberg again, and welcome to part 2 of the fire station presentation. This presentation deals with the designs for renovating the current station as well as building the proposed new station. It will also detail the estimated cost of both designs and will then explain what it will cost you as a taxpayer and finish with the safety of the fire department personnel. This presentation moves between slides quickly. If you wish to spend more time studying a slide, you may pause the movie presentation by clicking the pause icon at the bottom of the page. The icon is shown here. You then restart by clicking the start icon. Renovation, Roger Dignard. This slide shows a list of 9 significant issues that were identified in the first part of the presentation. The architect on this project, Roger Dignard, has developed a cost model for renovating our fire station, including the items listed here, as well as expanding the facility. Renovation continued. This slide is a conceptual design for a renovation including an addition to the existing station. A is the existing 5,664 square foot building up to the red dashed dot line. B is the 192 square foot lobby that's required by building code. C is a 20-foot long, 2-story, 1,920 square foot addition that begins at the red dashed dot line. D is the 2,870 square foot, 5-vehicle bay addition that requires putting truck traffic on Mill Street. This is not an ideal situation, especially in the winter when plowed snowbanks reduce the width of the street. The total size of the proposed renovated building is 10,646 square feet. Slide 5 shows approximately what the renovated facility would look like on the site. If a septic system were approved for this site, it would most likely be positioned between the end of the 5-bay addition and the boundary line to the left. The next 3 slides are the estimated cost to renovate the facility, bring it up to code, and add the new additions. These figures are all in thousands of dollars. The total on slide 8 is $1.793 million for the renovated fire station. Pause the presentation if you wish to study the details. Disposition of the current fire station. If we assume for a moment that the proposed new fire station article on the March warrant gets approved, one of the questions is what happens to the current station. We've spoken to other in-town departments like the police department and rec department, and there's no interest in taking over the fire station. The problems listed here are some of the major issues that make this building less than desirable. There's only one advantage, its location in the center of town. The problems are: the septic is shared with the church and has been completely underwater as shown in a photo in part 1 of this presentation. There's no on-site well. Potable water is shared with and originates at the town hall across the street. The structure requires many major repairs. There are many significant code violations to resolve, and the residential agricultural zoned lot will limit the uses allowed on this lot unless it's rezoned. The uses are shown on the next slide. After much discussion, one possible solution stands out, which is to raise, remove, and clean up the site and to create additional downtown parking or a small park. The cost to raise and remove the building is estimated to be $60,000. This $60,000 is included in the $2.51 million proposed warrant article. Allowed uses. The downtown fire station is zoned residential agricultural, and this is the town's RA ordinance. I won't read this slide aloud, but you may pause the presentation to study it. The financials. The following 4 drawings were created by Dignard Architectural Services and distributed to contractors by Matt Bolio from Milestone Engineering, LLC. These drawings were used to produce the following costing spreadsheet for the proposed Route 13 South Fire Station. The next 4 slides are the drawings distributed to contractors for cost quotes within their disciplines. The first slide is the schematic diagram of the proposed fire station. This slide is looking down at the roof. This slide is the front and right side views. The last slide in this group is the rear and left side views. Financial spreadsheet for the proposed station. This spreadsheet is showing the estimated costs that were received by contractors for the proposed fire station, and is based on the 4 previous drawings and not a full set of engineered drawings. The first column is the discipline. The second column is the contractor that provided the quote, then the cost, and finally notes that describe the product the contractor will provide. The hard costs total $2.55 million. The soft costs total $184,000, together totaling $2.738 million, which the building committee found to be too expensive. Proposed Route 13 firehouse. After some discussion, and in an effort to reduce the cost of the proposed station, our architect suggested squaring up the building footprint, which reduced the area by about 800 square feet. How this affects the cost is addressed later in the presentation. Pause if you'd like to study this drawing further. The site of the proposed station. This drawing was created by Roger Dignard in November 2015. The fire wards selected this layout based on access, traffic movement around the site, parking, and the ability for future fire station expansion that would be required for a full-time department. A description of what you're looking at is Route 13 South, or Mount Vernon Road, travels from position noon to 4 o'clock. The post office is at 10 or 11 o'clock, and the site access is the same as the post office or library, but turns left before you get to the library's driveway. Purchase of the Route 13 South site. In March 2014, there was a ballot vote, Article 15, and it was to see if the town will vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $205,000 for the purchase of land, Map 8, Lot 110-2, approximately 3.25 acres, to come from the unreserved fund balance with no money to be raised by taxation. The vote passed. Financial summary. The first line shows the large cost estimate of $2.74 million being divided by 11,000 square feet, giving a cost of $250 per square foot. The second line shows the reduced building size figure of 10,200 square feet that was achieved by squaring off the building and shortening it by 6 feet. Multiplying that reduced square foot number by the $250 per square foot gives us a total of $2.55 million. Squaring off the building reduced the cost by almost $200,000. Other areas of cost reduction consist of reusing the generator we own and is currently installed at the fire station. That's a $50,000 savings. Additionally, the fire wards manage a revolving fund to be used for EMS expenses only. This fund receives money from insurance companies for our billable ambulance runs. There's between $100,000 and $200,000 that could be used towards the EMS cost associated with building a new station. Lastly, we feel all the contractor quotes received were conservative, and by getting competitive bids based on a full set of engineered drawings, all of the contractor quotes will be lower. The target price range for the proposed station is between $2.25 million and $2.45 million. The selectmen requested that we add $60,000 for the raising and removal of the current fire station in the event the article passes, bringing the cost that will appear on the warrant article to $2.51 million. Comparison of both options. I would like you to pause the presentation and study this comparison, but before you do, I would like to point out the staging cost in the renovation column, which is an unknown cost. Staging is what it will cost to stage the fire department elsewhere while the renovation is in process. The fire department cannot be shut down for even one day, and every function that happens daily needs to remain operational. This means we need a secure place to stage the fire trucks, ambulance, supplies, offices, computers, gear, on-duty personnel, and much more that is easily accessible, and where our radios can be plugged in and charging, and air can be supplied to the trucks to maintain air pressure for the brakes. It seems reasonable to assume this may cost something. We just don't know how to calculate it. The staging can only last 9 months because we can't leave our trucks outside due to the cold weather freezing the trucks and rendering them inoperable. What will the fire station cost me? Using the bond estimating application yields the first-year cost of the proposed fire station to be 35 cents per $1,000 of the assessed value of your home. An example would look like this for a $350,000 home. A home assessed at $350,000 would pay $121 for the first year, $115 for the second year, $110 for the third year, etc. And in year 20 it would cost you $72 for the year. These costs are all detailed on the next slide. So for the first year at $121 will cost you $60.50 per tax bill because it's billed twice per year, $10.08 per month, $2.33 per week, or 33 cents per day, less than the price of a cup of coffee. The total cost over 20 years, if your home is valued at $350,000, is $1,873. The interest rate used to calculate the bond schedule is 3.25%. Total project cost over 20 years with interest is $3,370,637. What will the fire station cost me? Continued. This slide shows the cost per year for different home assessments. The highlighted column is the example used on the previous slide. The top row shows the different home assessment figures, $150,000 through $850,000. The column below the assessment closest to yours shows the declining yearly amount you'd pay over the 20-year term of the bond. Along the left side of the chart shows the years, 1 through 20, and along the right side is the actual tax impact in blue, which declines year by year. The bottom row is the total you'd pay over the 20-year duration of the bond. What's the cost of waiting? We're going to use the 3% per year inflation rate to calculate the cost of waiting. The 2017 cost of the proposed station with 3% inflation would be $2,523,500, which is an additional cost of $73,500. Delaying 10 years at 3% per year inflation would cost $3,185,585, or an additional $735,000. Other things that could drive cost up over time is the potential for code and regulation changes that would drive building design revisions, adding cost. Delaying would mean additional costs associated with the existing station. Structural issues will need to be addressed at an unknown cost. Siding and trim need to be replaced. Apparatus will continually be customized to fit. Many code and regulation violations will need to be addressed. Given these issues and many more, we believe the town can afford to wait. Environmental safety concerns. Diesel exhaust system. Gear stored in the apparatus bay. No dedicated decontamination area. No showers. No extractor. This is a washing machine specifically for fire gear. No defined hot and cold areas in the station. Cancer in the fire service. A very real threat in the fire service today is the threat of cancer. In this picture, the Journal of Occupational and Environmental Medicine states that firefighters are classified by the insurance industry as high hazard and demonstrate alarmingly high incidence of heart attacks, high blood pressure, and cancer. And when compared to other workers, firefighters face more risk in developing these cancers shown in the chart. In the chart, the norm is the vertical line, and the red percentage is the percentage above the norm of these cancers listed. This same chart is on the NIOSH webpage. NIOSH is the National Institute for Occupational Safety and Health and is an arm of the CDC. How to combat the threat of cancer. Areas where New Boston conforms. Use self-contained breathing apparatus, SCBA, from initial attack to the completion of overhaul. Not wearing SCBA in both active and post-fire environments is the most dangerous voluntary activity in the fire service today. Do field decontamination of personal protective equipment, PPE, to remove as much soot and particles as possible. Use moist wipes to remove as much soot as possible from the head, neck, jaw, throat, underarms, and hands immediately while still on the scene. Decon fire apparatus interiors after fires. Areas where New Boston doesn't conform. We don't change our clothes and wash them immediately after a fire. Shower thoroughly after a fire. There are no showers. Clean and wash your PPE, gloves, hood, and helmet immediately after a fire. There are no extractors. Do not take contaminated clothes or PPE home or store them in your vehicle. For many members, this is the only way to keep the gear close if we live a long distance from the station. Do not store PPE in the apparatus bay. For many, there's no other place to store them. Diesel exhaust system. They cost $60 to $80K, and we don't have one. Configure the facility into separate hot and cold areas. This will be explained on the next slide. The hot and cold zone. This design applies only to the proposed facility. It would be impossible to accomplish in the existing fire station due to the station's layout. Hot zone design manages 3 levels of exposure. Hot zone red, spaces exposed to carcinogens. Cold zone green, living and working spaces intended for extended occupancy. Transition zone yellow, allows for movement between hot and cold zones. The idea is to keep contaminated people, gear, tools, etc. out of the cold zone. Contaminated firefighters would never violate the boundary and enter the cold zone without decontaminating first. People in the cold area may enter the hot zone and return as long as they are not contaminated. 3 rules apply. Contain the contaminants, separate occupants from contaminants, and control crossover. The Plymovent exhaust system. This is a diesel exhaust system that eliminates the carcinogenic exhaust from the station's environment. It secures to the truck's exhaust system by magnets and follows the truck outside where it automatically disconnects as the vehicle passes beyond the overhead door. Upon the truck's return, the down tube is connected to the exhaust before re-entering the station, thereby eliminating the diesel exhaust gases from the station. There's a down tube for every vehicle. This is the Plymovent exhaust system. This photo is showing a 2-deep truck configuration. This system is $11,000 per drop. This is the MagnaGrip exhaust system. This system works exactly as the Plymovent and costs $8,000 per drop. The fire wards have met with the salespeople from both companies but have yet to decide which system to select. 20-year call volume for New Boston Fire and EMS. The EMS call volume is in beige and the fire calls are in blue. In 20 years, we've gone from 209 calls in 1996 to 529 calls in 2016. There's been a trend of call volumes increasing over time, and we're anticipating this trend to continue. This proposed new station project has a goal of 40+ years, and the program is designed to solve some serious current day problems as well as anticipating future growth requirements. This is the end of the presentation. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, please contact Wayne using the information provided on this slide. Thank you.